That's interesting because I blame you. They go on bantering, but my eyes are fixed on the figures across the park. Magda, I say, but they don't hear me. The same way you blame me for Reina not wanting to go out with you, Magda says. That was your fault, Magda. I told you to tell her I thought she was cute, not that I wanted to marry her. I remember you literally saying that, though. Cállense, I snap, slapping at their shoulders. Look, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Finally, they both look. We're no more than 100 yards away. J.B. Williamson stands with the girl, and 50 yards to their east stands... That's Trey, Luis says, sitting straight up on the bench. Luis, did you tell them to meet up here? Magda cries, pushing his shoulder. No, hell no. That would be weird. I didn't say anything to anybody. We watch from the gazebo as J.B. and the girl walk slowly over to meet Trey. They stand some distance apart, exchanging a few words. Then they all look in our direction. We should leave, Magda says softly. What are the odds that all three of you are here at the same time? Feels like a setup. Nah, it has to be a sign, Luis says. A sign of what? I say low. That if someone sees us, people will call it a conspiracy? That we really did plan to kill more together? That's a good point, Luis says. Maybe Magda's right. We should leave. Just give me a second, I snap again. Magda and Luis go quiet so I can think. I watch the others watching us and get the feeling that they're having the same conversation we are. Before I can decide what to do, I notice Trey looking in our direction, lifting his head in acknowledgement. What's up, Luis? He yells out. You good? Luis pauses, glancing at me. Then Magda. Yeah, I'm good. You good? Trey nods. Then he and JB exchange words. My heart starts to pound as the three of them, JB, Trey, and the girl, move in our direction. I suddenly regret coming out here. Ramon, right? Says JB, when he walks up. The girl with him is super pretty, brown skin and dark hair. Her eyes are serious. She keeps glancing at Trey, who keeps looking over his shoulder. Right, I say. Then swallow. What are you guys doing here? Neither of the guys really talks, just kinda mutter. The girl speaks up. Sup, I'm Kiana, she says. I'm JB's girlfriend. She seems a little shy when she says it, like she's still getting used to it. We decided to meet up with Trey so we can figure out what's going on, because right now, it's not looking good for nobody. Including you, right? Trey says, shooting a glance at me. Then he looks over his shoulder again. I don't see anybody except for a lone woman sitting on a bench across the park. Is this a good idea? Luis interrupts. I mean, some people are saying the three of you planned it. All lies and rumors, Trey snaps. I don't even know y'all. I know you, Luis says. You're my teammate, man. I never thought you did it. And seems like Ramon is your boy, JB says gruffly. So that means... what? That you think I did it, right? We all glare at each other for a second. The tension is so thick, it feels like fog. Luis's face is growing red with anger, but before he can respond, I cut in. That's not even the point right now, I speak up. Right now, we need to make sure nobody sees us. There's just one lady over there, Luis says, pointing at the woman I had seen. Trey mutters something. Huh? That's my mom, he says. She came with me. Nobody says anything. It doesn't escape my notice that both me and JB had someone our age show up for us, but Trey didn't. He must be feeling really lonely. So let's figure this out, Magda says, and Kiana nods. What do we know? We know I didn't do it, Trey says quickly. I don't know that, I say. JB turns to me and says, and I don't know it wasn't you. You left detention to make a phone call, and then all of a sudden Moore is shot? He's right, but I had to call back Ever before it was too late. I can feel Magda's eyes on me. Well, you're definitely a bigger suspect than me. His blood was all over you. I snap back. That wasn't his blood, he shouts as he takes a step toward me. I tense up, expecting him to want to fight. With his size, not sure I could take him, but I couldn't back down. Kiana jumps in front of him, and I can't say I don't appreciate it. This is what we know, she says. Trey was looking into this thing just like we were, and he found a credible lead. We did too. The same person, so we trust each other. It's you we don't know about. Word is, Dioses del Humo could have been involved, not to mention your brush being at the scene. I gulp. How'd you know about that? I asked. Word travels. I don't know how it got there, but Moore took my pupusas earlier that day. He had my whole bag. Uh-huh, whatever, Trey says hotly. Sounds sus to me. The sudden fear makes my anger flare. And I heard they have footage of you sneaking into the school. He scowls and so do I. Isn't your cousin a banger, he says? I heard y'all put a hit out. Just because my cousin bangs doesn't mean I do, I snarl. Rumors and rumors, Magda says loudly, to clear the air. Well, I didn't do this, I say, needing them to believe me. Then who did, JB says, looking more tired than angry. I can tell JB and Trey want to solve this thing as bad as I do. Maybe they really didn't do this, and I should work with them. And even if they did, working with them would mean I could keep a close eye on them while looking into other potential suspects. But I can't tell them about Nico. They'd be too suspicious of me, since he's possibly a dios, or at least was once. Y'all look, Kiana shouts. They just released emails from the killer. Kiana taps on her phone, and we all lean in to read.
Emails retrieved from Principal Moore's desktop. Sender, darkgamble@anonmail.com. To Principal Kenneth Moore. I know what you did. You were supposed to be there for me, and you decided to turn your back. Don't think I'll forget this. Time is running out for you. Sender, darkgamble@anonmail.com. To Principal Kenneth Moore. You ignored my last message, so I will make myself a little clearer. If you don't write this wrong, the blowback will be fast and furious. You think you're immune to consequences? You think those are for everyone else? You're wrong. I know what you did, and you're going to get what's coming. I promise.
Chapter 18. Co-conspirators. Trey. Damn, says the girl with Ramon. These are serious. I like how she frowned, but not because she's mad, because she's thinking. I do that too. So does my mom. I bet she's sitting on that park bench frowning right now, wondering if this was a good idea, just like I am. What's your name again? I ask her. Magda? She smiles back, but before I can say anything else, Ramon chimes in. Those emails could be from anybody. Anybody who goes to promise, you mean, says JB. See how they said, I promise, at the end? Not necessarily goes to promise. Maybe worked there. Or even a parent. Had to be lots of people who beefed with Moore, Ramon says. You mean like Stanley Ennis, JB says. Kiana and I got a hold of the visitor's log at school, and turns out he was the last person to visit Moore's office the day of the murder. Oh yeah, Luis jumps in. I don't know him well, but he got us new basketball jerseys. JB says he and Moore would butt heads, Kiana says, reading the notes from her phone. I know Ennis. He recruited me for basketball. He even gave Uncle T a nice-sized check for taking me in. He is definitely an interesting guy, always making sure you knew how much money he had. I don't see him killing Moore, but at this point, nobody could be trusted. Not even the other boys in the park with me. Yeah, I know him, I add. He and Moore got into an argument once in the back of the gym during practice. With all the money I bring into this school, you need to do what I tell you to do. You can guess what Moore thought of that, which honestly, fuck Moore. But I was rooting for him that day because Ennis is such an asshole. The type to want to put his name up on a wall or a bench. I remember that, Luis says eagerly. It was like a month ago. Coach had to ask him to step out of the gym. Ennis acted like he owned the place. He kind of does, JB said. That Promise Fund shit? We found this article on how he's bringing in all the money to Promise. When money gets involved, things get sticky. I don't think I've ever heard JB talk this much. Ramon either. That's the way Promise works. You're side by side with strangers. Until I get to know them better, I can't get too close. They could be in on Principal Moore's murder together. Oh, shit. That makes me remember something else. Luis cuts in. This was later that day. When I was walking out with Omar, Ennis was in the hallway on his phone, and then he shut up when he saw us. But before he did, I heard him say, "I'm not going to give him another dime if he doesn't come up with some answers." If anything, Ennis saying he's not going to give Promise another dime sounds like a motive for Moore to kill Ennis, not the other way around, Ramon says. Wait, who's Omar again? Kiana says, glancing at me and JB. Oh, he works in the office, Louis says. Ennis uses him for sizzle reel footage sometimes. He's pretty quiet, don't talk to nobody. Except you, apparently, says Magda, and I smile at that. She's quick. We were only talking that day because I wanted to make sure he got my dunk on tape. Louise shrugs. You know I fly. Y'all, focus, Kiana says. We heard about Omar. Apparently, he was the last person seen with Moore. Omar? Louise scoffs. No fucking way. We just don't know what his motive could be, Kiana says, frowning. I've seen that dude, and I don't think he did this. But if nobody else is looking at him, then we need to. Facts, says JB. So, what about somebody like Hicks? He found a body, right? Or even Mrs. Hall, I blurt out, before I even know what I'm saying. As much as it makes me feel like shit to consider she could have killed someone, I can't deny she was acting all suspicious. Both JB and Ramon look at me confused. I saw a photo of her on social with wine, I say quickly. I think she might be lying about being pregnant. JB's eyes widen. And I ran into her at Mariano's after school the day before Moore was shot, and she was buying wine. Why would she lie about being pregnant? Ramon says, surprised. I don't know, says JB. But when I saw her at Mariano's, she told me she had a meeting with Moore that day. Not only that, Kiana says, she came back to Promise the next day. Her name was also on the visitor's log, but she signed out an hour before the game. I don't know her, says Magda, but if she has something against Moore and wanted to kill him, it would have been smart for her to be seen leaving the school before the murder so she wouldn't be a suspect. I shake my head. I don't want to believe that, but I keep thinking of seeing her with Detective Bo. I don't know if I should tell the others about what I saw, especially if they're somehow involved. But if they aren't, knowing Detective Bo and Mrs. Hall are connected could be valuable information. This is all so confusing. There's something else, I say, hating that we're considering Mrs. Hall. I saw her arguing with Detective Bo, and she kissed him. I'm pretty sure that's her husband. She's married to a cop? Ramon exclaims. No way, JB says, shaking his head. Not just any cop, the cop on this case? What the fuck? Or at least boyfriend, I add. Magda lets out a little gasp and then says, Que barbaridad. I know. I saw them, I say. I heard them talking. She was asking him about suspects. What if she was trying to find out what they might have on her or something? That would be wild, JB mutters. One of the emails had the line, "You were supposed to be there for me." That could be Mrs. Hall. To be honest, like, if it's not one of us, not a student, then it sounds most like a teacher. Damn, Ramon says, nodding, turning it all over in his head. That actually makes sense. We all sit in silence, and finally I remember the other name on my brain. Oh! I overheard something else Detective Bo mentioned. A cafeteria guy at Promise who has a criminal record. Nico Martinez. Right as I say Nico's name, I notice Ramon look at his feet. Uncle T was always watching my body language and using it against me. I'm not sure what looking down meant for Ramon in that moment, but I clock it all the same. Does this Nico have any type of motive? Kiana asks. Not that I can tell, but we have to do some digging. I can do it, Ramon volunteers. I think I know who you're talking about. I've seen him around the heights. Cool. If we're divvying up suspects, we need to recap. Who are we really looking at? Kiana consults her notes. Well, Mrs. Hall is still on the list, she says, sounding apologetic. Like, it would be ridiculous for the wife of a cop to commit murder, but maybe she figured he would cover for her. Wouldn't be the first dirty cop. Mrs. Hall doesn't live that far from me. I'll see what I can find, I say. I don't know where Omar lives, but we'll start with him, JB says, looking at Kiana. Cool, Kiana continues. And Ennis is still a suspect, even though it's iffy. He donated a lot of money, and you know how people are about money. Let's start with Mrs. Hall, Omar, and Nico, and keep the others on the back burner. Makes sense to me, Ramon says. Me too, JB chimes in. They look at me, waiting for me to agree, but deep down I still don't know if I can trust them. Cool, I say. We all stand there, silent for a second, thinking of our next move. Meanwhile, JB says, quietly after a while, life at Promise just goes on. They ruin all three of our lives, and it doesn't matter. Truth. I nod. I hope they put somebody in charge who's better than Moore. I'm sure it'll be Hicks, Ramon says. Doesn't matter who they put in that spot. They'll always question our character. Young and black, they hate us in America, JB says. And I can tell by the way he says it, he's almost quoting a song. Corday? I say. We lock eyes and nod. Makes me like him a little more. This mess only gets messier, Magda sighs. I peek over and spot pupusas in Ramon's bag, and my stomach goes wild. Yo, Ramon, I whisper. You mind if I get one of those? Ramon looks at his bag and then back to me. Sure. He takes out a pupusa and tosses it my way. He looks at all the faces staring back at him. Fine, come on, everybody get some. Everybody jumps up to grab pupusas from Ramon's bag, and we all sit there silently and eat, mentally preparing for the next part of our mission.
Urban Promise Prep press release for immediate release. Wilson Hicks named interim principal. Washington, D.C. The community of Urban Promise Prep has come together to honor the memory of its founder and fearless leader, Kenneth Moore, and announce its commitment to continuing forward with building the men of tomorrow as he would have wanted. Until a permanent replacement is decided upon, Dean Wilson Hicks has been named interim principal, and he takes on this new duty with the solemnity that his predecessor would have expected and desired. Hicks has called for the commission of a portrait of Moore to hang in the entryway of Promise to commemorate the life of this powerful leader. We promise. We are the young men of Urban Promise Prep. We are destined for greatness. We are college-bound. We are primed for success. We are extraordinary because we work hard. We are respectful, dedicated, committed, and focused. We are our brother's keepers. We are responsible for our futures. We are the future. We promise. Part 5. The Truth.
Chapter 19. Break In. JB. Eating something that Ramon made inspires me to try making dinner for my mom. I've only ever warmed things up out of a box or a plastic container of leftovers, but there's something special about homemade food. So I picked the easiest thing I can think of. Breakfast. And when she comes home and finds that I made her a scrambled egg sandwich, her smile is so big and surprised that it makes cleaning up slippery egg yolks all worth it. You even arranged the fruit all pretty, she says when she sits down to eat. I tried, I say. What's the occasion? No occasion. I just appreciate you having my back. I feel bad that I went out to the park today without telling her, but she's got enough on her mind and shoulders, working around the clock in case it turns out we need a lawyer. But that's not why I made her dinner, not because I feel guilty. I just want her to know how grateful I am for her. This is really good, JB, she says. Don't sound so surprised. We laugh and eat, but don't talk much. It's hard to choose something to talk about when you're surrounded by dread. After a long silence, my mom finally breaks in. Can I ask you something? Yes, ma'am. What do you remember about that day? She says, eventually looking down at her plate. Anything important? I know my mom. She doesn't want to look me in my eyes, so I won't see how desperate she is. She's searching for any shred to hang on to, some type of proof that guarantees her baby will stay her baby and not become a man behind bars. I swallow hard. I can handle all this when I'm just thinking about myself. But when I think about her, that's when it gets tough. What do I remember? I tell her as much as I can, leaving out stuff I know will hurt her. By the time I get to sitting in detention, I'm aware of how much I've had to not say. I tell her how it was me and two other guys in detention, how I didn't know either of them beyond their faces and names being familiar. But I don't tell her that after today at the park, we know each other a lot better. I tell her how Trey left the room to go to the bathroom, and how after Mr. Reggie left to go find Trey, Ramon left to make a phone call. And then I tell her, it happened. The gunshot. Then everyone flooding into the hallways like ants, including me. She gasps as if she wasn't expecting this part of the story. But we both know this was the only possible ending. The facts are the facts. So either one of those boys could have done it, she says. I shrug. But they say they didn't. Do you remember anything else that day? She says. Anything at all? No, I say. What I don't mention is the gun I found. It was just a normal day. It was the game that night, so people were there taking videos and stuff. There was people like donors and volunteers to put up decorations. I trail off. I had noticed the people putting up decorations, paint and streamers and stuff. Some of them I vaguely recognized. Parents of some of the guys, teachers, students, including Omar, the kid from the office. Omar. His face sticks like a popcorn kernel now that Trey told me what Solomon saw. Omar coming out of Moore's office. What is it? My mom asks. She must notice something on my face. Just thinking about someone. Who? Kiana is like a super lawyer detective, I explain. I leave out the part that Kiana is my girl. She's been helping me try to clear my name. And how have y'all been doing that without your phone? She says, raising her eyebrows higher than the moon. You know what? Don't tell me, she says, waving her hands. But I'll say this. You stay out of trouble, you understand me? You need to do everything on the up and up. One wrong move could land you in jail. I nod silently, thinking, feeling sweat start to crawl down my back. I can't tell my mother that I'm planning to sneak out later and break into the school, returning to the crime scene to search for what could be the murder weapon. I know it's a huge risk, but I gotta make moves. The air outside feels cool against my face. I've always loved DC nights, especially when the weather is like this, just right. It's quiet besides the constant wail of sirens, which I hardly hear anymore. I've learned to live with that sound, I guess. A cop car speeds past and instinctually my heart races. It's a shame there's no one here to protect us, only police us. I think about my father. How disappointed he'd be if I ended up in a prison alongside him. Not disappointed with me, but himself. I shake the thought. No way I'm going to prison for a crime I didn't commit. I kick at a rock on the street to release some tension. Normally I'd throw on a beat, write some bars, or poetry even. But without my phone, there's nothing to slow my mind down. So I just let it go, imagining what life could be on the other side of all this mess. Kiana meets me behind the school, wearing a dark hoodie and a black toboggan. Why are you dressed like a jack boy? I ask. I can't help but smirk a little. This is a boys' school, she says. I couldn't walk in there looking like a girl. I hate to break it to her, But that hoodie and hat don't make her look like a dude. Looking at that fine hourglass figure, I don't think anything could. But I turn away and keep the thought to myself. If we get caught, won't matter if you're a boy, girl, or other. We're screwed. You sure about this? I can always go in myself. In fact, maybe I should. I don't want you any more wrapped up in this than you already are. Kiana thinks for a moment. It's the first time I see her unsure of anything. She looks in my eyes. I'm with you, JB, she says. Without thinking, I give her a hug and she squeezes me tight. It feels so good to have someone I can trust. Now, how do we get in? She whispers. Follow me, but we have to be extremely careful, I say, handing her a pair of gloves. Put these on. Can't leave any prints. I take her around back where there's a busted door. But much to my surprise, there's a chain on it with a padlock. Shit! I should have known they'd figure out this door was busted sooner or later. Now what? I examine the lock. You wouldn't have any bobby pins, would you? How many you need? 2. Kiana reaches under her hat and digs around in her hair, pulling out exactly what I need. Would this work? Perfect. I flatten one of the pins and go to work jimmying the lock, a skill I picked up busting in the lockers at the pool. After a few thrusts of the bobby pins, the lock pops open. I look at Kiana and she shakes her head. I don't even want to know, she says. I check over my shoulder and open the door as Kiana and I duck into the school, closing the door softly behind us. Inside, the school is dark and quiet. I take out my flashlight to illuminate the space. I haven't been back in Promise since the shooting, and being here now really spooks me out, especially since the light only catches the area a few feet in front of us. Every step seems louder than the last, echoing through the empty halls. What exactly are we looking for? Kiana whispers. 303, I say. Huh? Sorry, locker number 303. Luis texted saying that's Omar's locker. Oh. As we head towards the steps leading upstairs, we pass the bathroom where I found the gun. Had someone really used it to commit murder? Or if I go in there right now, will it be where I left it? Untouched and unseen? I decide to find out. I may never get another chance. Remember that gun I told you about? I whisper. Yeah. I found it in that bathroom, I say, pointing at the door. I stop and look at Kiana. I'm sorry, I have to know. Kiana nods. I walk over and slowly enter the bathroom, careful not to make any noise. Inside, the school looks the exact same way it did that day. That damn day when life at Promise went from bad to worse. The bathroom is quiet, untouched. I go into that same stall and slowly stand up on the same toilet, peering up at the ceiling. One of the towels is shifted. I put it back, hadn't I? I know I did. With trembling hands, I lift it out of the way. I reach my hand inside, patting around. Nothing. Had I pushed it that far? I bring the flashlight up high and stand on my tiptoes on the toilet seat. It's gone. I freeze. My biggest fear is true. I rush out the bathroom to Kiana. The gun is gone. Somebody took it. It had to be the gun that was used to kill Moore. And I could have stopped it had I just said something. I stand there stunned. I could have prevented Moore's death. I was so stupid to think I could just hide the gun and everything would be okay. I slide down the wall, burying my face in my hands. Fuck, I can't believe this. Kiana puts her hand on my shoulder. It's okay. Maybe the murderer didn't find it. The cops did. That doesn't help. My prints are still on the gun. Yeah, but if it isn't the murder weapon, I'm sure they'll realize that, right? With ballistics or whatever. She makes a good point. But still, I have my doubts. Murder weapon or not, my prints on a gun wouldn't look good. Bottom line, we can't stop here. We have to keep looking. She makes another good point, and I cut the pity party. You're right. Let's go. When we arrive at Omar's locker, I know just what to do. I've broken into my own locker 1,000,000 times, and Omar's is just as easy. I slip the ballpoint pen from my back pocket, jam it into the side of the built-in lock, and twist it counterclockwise 3 times. When it pops open, Kiana gives me a look. Not what you think, I say. She raises her eyebrows and pokes her lips out, and I try not to laugh again. Instead, I turn to Omar's locker and shine my flashlight inside. What a mess, she whispers. It is. Papers spilling everywhere, photos and articles in stacks that could fall out any second. We gotta be quick, I say, glancing up and down the hallway like someone might spring out and catch us at any moment. I pull out a stack of binders while trying to keep the rest from toppling. Kiana steps up to catch the falling pile of school supplies while I sift through the papers. A stack slips out of one of the binders and onto the floor with a thud. We both freeze, and I cut off my flashlight. You hear anything? I whisper. Just you, Kiana snaps back. After we confirm we're alone, I turn my flashlight back on. What was that? She says. I bend down to pick up whatever fell and freeze in horror. It's dozens of weird photos of Principal Moore in the halls, outside the school, and even at his house. Okay, says Kiana. That isn't creepy at all. Why in the world would he have these pictures of Moore in his locker? Kiana and I look at each other, both thinking the same thing. What else is in there? Maybe some evidence that strongly ties him to the murder. Maybe even a gun? I look up at Kiana when she says the word gun. What? Just saying, if we're lucky. I shake my head and keep looking through the stacks of papers until something catches my eye. What? What is it? Look, I say, turning the document around. It's from Moore, she says with surprise. Your request for promised fund monies has been denied. Using the funds for photography materials would be an inappropriate use of funds with college application projects as the aim. Promised fund monies are not to be used for personal projects. So Omar requested money from the Promise Fund, and Moore said no, I whisper. Kiana looks at me with a serious expression. I wonder what Omar was doing in Moore's office that day. Do you think... Just then we hear a door close. We glance up and see a beam of light coming from around the corner. Oh shit, they must have security here. Quick, hide! I pull Kiana into a nearby crevice in front of the music room. I try the door, but it's locked. We squeeze even closer. So close I can feel her against me. Hard as it is pressed up against her, I try to concentrate on not making a sound. The beam of light moves closer toward us, and now I can hear the hard-bottomed shoes of the security guard approaching. I look Kiana in her eyes, and I can tell she's scared. She has way more to lose than I do. I got an idea. Just trust me. I dig in my pocket and pull out a coin. Wait! Before she can finish, I toss the coin as far as I can down the hall and pull her down to the floor with me. As soon as the coin lands with a ping, I see the guard's flashlight swivel in that direction. I hope they'll take the bait and start walking that way. But then the guard stops moving, staying put like they're searching for something. Or someone. For a second, all I can think about is getting caught, making myself look guilty while all I was doing was trying to prove my innocence. Just when I'm thinking about grabbing Kiana and running, the guard starts moving again. His footsteps quicken as he rushes past us. They're gone, I whisper as low as I can. Grab the binders and let's get the hell out of here. We grab what we can from Omar's locker before we hightail it. It's starting to feel like we may have a number one suspect.
Chapter 20. The Talk. Trey. Nico Martinez. I typed the name online to see what I can find. After seeing Mrs. Hall with Detective Bo, I thought it may be a little too risky to keep tailing her. I need to think of another way to get more info on her. But in the meantime, one of the other names struck me. Nico. I knew of all the suspects but Nico, so I figured I'd get familiar. A few profiles pop up on my computer screen, but none of them are the Nico I'm looking for. I click around a few more pages, but it seems pointless. I switch over to the images online and scroll through until I see a familiar face. I click on the image to enlarge it. It's Nico. Except it's not the same Nico I'm used to. This Nico has hard eyes and shaved hair, exposing the skull tattoo on the back of his head. The image is from a court case. Nico Martinez, charged with an attempted murder in connection with Martinez's gang affiliation, Dioses del Humo. I whisper, I can't believe it. Nico is a member of Dioses del Humo? A flash of rage washes over me. Ramon had to know Nico. Now Ramon's uneasiness makes sense. He looked down at his feet when we said Nico's name like he was hiding something. Why would he hold back unless he was involved somehow? I hear Uncle T's footsteps coming down the hall and slam my laptop shut. I pretend to be asleep. I'd rather not be bothered if I don't have to be. Trey, you decent? I'm shocked. Uncle T has never asked me something like that. Usually he just barges in whenever he feels like it. I'm so shocked I forget I'm supposed to be pretending to be asleep. Yeah, I call out as I sit up in bed. Uncle T walks in and sits at the foot of my bed. He seems more tired than usual. Trey, I just got a call and I think it's time we spoke. My heart sinks. Call about what? I ask. The police said they identified the type of gun that was used on your principal. They looked into weapons registered to this address and found mine, which apparently matches the make and model of the gun used on Moore. I can't even look at my uncle. I just start crying without warning. Honestly, it feels good. A release. The secret had been weighing so heavy on me and I didn't even realize it. My biggest fear is true. I am in some way responsible for the death of Principal Moore. I take some comfort in thinking that whoever killed Moore may have still done it with or without my uncle's gun. But I definitely nudge them along. As he stares at me crying, Uncle T's calmness terrifies me. I feel like at any moment he could just turn and strangle me to literal death. Put me out of my misery. I told the police I checked for my gun and did not find it. Uncle T continues. I also told them it could have been stolen and I hadn't noticed since I hadn't used it recently. Of course, that won't really hold. It's all too clean. I can't meet his eyes. You're here, your principal is shot, and my gun is missing. Look at me, Trey. I hear something I've never heard in his voice. An air of concern, or even fear maybe. I look at him. Where is the gun, Trey? I don't know. I grabbed your bag by accident that morning. Why didn't you come back home? I didn't want to be late to school. I would have been benched for the game. Why didn't you call? I didn't want you mad at me. So I hid the gun in case they did a locker check, but when I went back to find it, it was gone. My uncle looks away from me for a long time, too, like he was either thinking of what to say or hiding his face in shame. I couldn't tell. I'm sorry, Trey, he said, finally looking back my way. I think I failed you if you think you can't talk to me when you're in trouble. I only wanted you to be great, son. Great. You don't have time, Trey. You don't have time to be a knucklehead. And I've been trying to force you to be a man the only way I know how. The way my father showed me. But maybe I was wrong. And now, maybe it'll cost you your life. I'm sorry. I'll figure something out. My uncle stands up and leaves, closing the door softly behind him. I wipe my face. I think about Coach shouting, "Get your head in the game, Jackson." Will I ever play again? I think about what Solomon's punk ass said online. That joke about me playing ball in jail. Is that really my future? To just get thrown away like so many people do? My whole life? My whole future? So, they matched the bullet to the same kind of gun that I accidentally took to school that day. But they haven't actually found the gun. Yet. And I think I might know where it is.
Chapter 21. Nico. Ramon. Death can feel far away until it happens right in front of you. People assume that because you grew up in a gang territory, you're numb to stuff like what happened to Mr. Moore. That's just not true. Ever since it happened, I feel like my body is filled with floodwater. I learned when I was little to never walk through those still oceans. They're filled with filth and sometimes electricity. So if you're not careful, you could get shocked. I'm not supposed to leave the house, but inside, I can't sit still. I know I need to look more into Nico, but I've been stalling because I'm scared of what I might find and terrified of what the dioses will do to me if they catch me in the act. So I hang out on the back porch, alternating between sitting and pacing. I've just sat down when my phone vibrates loudly against the hard porch. I snatch it up. It's a group text from Kiana. We need to find the murder weapon. The only way to prove who did it is to find the gun, right? It would have the killer's fingerprints. It would explain everything. I try to swallow my anger. I type back quickly. You make it sound so easy. It's not that simple. No one answers, no matter how long I keep staring at the screen. I drop it back on the porch in frustration. I think back to Ever and that exchange with Nico at 314 Bizzetti. Maybe it is that easy. Time to stop stalling. I stand up like lightning, all that electrified floodwater shocking my spine. Podría ser? I breathe. I look at the clock, plenty of time before Abuela gets home. What was the name of that restaurant I saw Nico at again? I Google the address, 314 Bizzetti. There it is, El Rincón. I dial the number to the spot, and after a few rings, a soft voice picks up on the other line. Hello, and thank you for calling El Rincón. This is Anabel speaking. How may I help you? I deepen my voice to try to sound older. Yes, is Nico there tonight? I need to drop something off for him. Yes, I believe he's still here. I know that his shift ends soon. Did you want to speak to him? I immediately hang up the phone. This could be the guy. My shoes are already on, and my phone is already in my hand. I grab my pocket knife, just in case, and I run out the front door, hoping that somehow Nico will lead me to the murder weapon. The night is unusually silent. I figure I'll follow Nico home, see where he lives, then, at some point, go do a little digging and see what I find in the house. If I come up with the weapon, that's it, I'm free. If not, maybe there's something else in there that gives some sort of clue as to what happened to Mr. Moore. The restaurant is close enough to walk to, and I could use a fresh air. As I approach the building, I see him, Nico Martinez, leaving the restaurant in his kitchen uniform, apron tossed over his shoulder after a long day of work. For a brief moment, I actually start to feel bad for the guy. Does he work at Promise and then come work at another place? Reminds me of my abuela, always working. The hustle is real. Nico walks down the street, and I do the same, careful to maintain a safe distance, even though it's dark out and he won't notice me. He passes a bus stop, which makes me think he lives in the area. Even better, then he hits a hard right down an alley. Not the safest place to follow someone you think is a murderer. But what choice do I have? If we don't solve this case soon, they're likely to put it on all of us. I turn into the alley and stop in my tracks. Nico is gone. I squint my eyes, staring through the light fog, but there's no sign of Nico. Impossible, I whisper to myself. I slowly creep down the alley, looking at the buildings surrounding me. All dark and empty, with no sign of life, let alone Nico. I get halfway down the alley when it hits me. Nico lost me on purpose. But why? What is he hiding? Dread slides down my spine. What if he saw my face? I start to turn around to hurry back the way I came when suddenly I'm shoved hard from behind and pushed to the ground. I land with a thud, pulling out my switchblade to warn off the mugger. But before I can get up, the cold barrel of a pistol presses against the back of my head. Fuck are you doing following me? It's no mugger at all. It's a murderer. It's Nico. No, please, I'm sorry. I'm shocked that he picked up on me so fast. Then again, the streets teach you to be aware of your surroundings. I should have known I was no match. Talk, he yells, pressing the gun harder against my skull. I don't know what to say. The truth? Do you tell a potential murderer you're onto them? In a dark alley where nobody can hear you? I was all out of options. Nico, I call out. That's your name, right? Mr. Martinez? It's silent for a moment. Suddenly I feel the gun pull away and see a hand reach out. I grab it, and Nico helps me to my feet. I expect to see him pointing the barrel of his gun right at me. But wait, he doesn't have a gun at all. It was just his knuckle digging into my head. Nico squints as he tries to see me in the dark. Ramon, what the hell are you doing? Why are you out here this time of night? Why are you tailing me? I slowly back away to put some distance between us. I'm sorry. I just wanted to talk. About what? Nico looks around as if I'm setting him up. I can tell he's pissed. I never considered it, but if Nico isn't the killer, he probably suspects me just as much as I suspect him. I didn't know you were Dioses. That was a while ago. You've done time? Yeah? So? I can't outright ask him if he's a murderer, so I fumble for a way to find out more. It's just, I saw you were with Evet earlier. What? Evet. He gave you a package. Looked like money. How long have you been following me, kid? Just then and now. For what? Well, I mean, you're affiliated. More got my cousin Cesar arrested, and Dioses wanted revenge. So I thought... Nico sighs and shakes his head, as if he's disappointed he's been found out. You don't know shit, little man, he says, taking a step towards me. I stand my ground and stare him in the eyes, waiting for him to say more. Since I got a record and used to be a Dios, you think I killed more? So much for trying to skirt around the truth. I nod, one hand locked on my switchblade in case something's about to go down. Nico rubs his chin and lets out a chuckle before he continues. Funny enough, the money you saw me get from Ever was a down payment on El Rincon. I guess Cesar heard the place was selling and wanted to move quick to keep it in the neighborhood. Had nothing to do with more. I can't believe my ears. Now it makes sense what Cesar said right before he got arrested. Maybe there's another option, another storefront, you know? He had the whole thing already worked out. I feel proud and sad all at once. Proud of my primo for seriously considering changing his lifestyle. Proud of myself for getting through to him. But I'm sad I even had to suspect the Dioses for this in the first place. A lot of them are trying to find their path. They weren't able to go to an urban promise prep. I'm sorry, sir. I don't know what to say. I'm freaking out, you know? I have the sudden stupid urge to cry. I rub my face extra hard to push it away. For some reason, Nico rubs his eyes too. You got a lawyer? He asks. Yeah, but he's hard to get a hold of. Nico just shakes his head again. Don't let them get you with this, he says, turning away. Do everything you can, and when shit like this goes down, always best to start by following the money. What do you mean? Look, I don't know much, Nico replies. But we cafeteria staff talk, and there's no way the school needs to be pinching pennies with so much sponsorship and grant money coming in. You think someone's stealing money from the school? Like I said, I don't know much, but if it was me, I'd find a way to dig deeper. With that, Nico turns around and starts walking away. Thanks. I choke out, but he's already near the mouth of the alley. He's almost out of sight when I call after him. I'm sorry. He pauses, and I almost think he's going to ignore me, but he looks at me over his shoulder. Me too. And then he's gone.
Breaking news. The Promise murder investigation. In their ongoing investigation, police have used ballistic evidence to identify the type of weapon used in the shooting. They have been able to conclude the type of pistol used matches the caliber of weapon owned by one of the guardians of the 3 suspects. We've reached out for comments about this discovery, but the person, who was asked to remain anonymous, declined to answer. Stay tuned for more updates on the Promise murder.
Chapter 22. Confusion. Trey. The day after we meet up at the park, I get a message from Ramon that he wants to meet up again later tonight. My whole chest lights up. Of course I want to meet, because now I know he was holding things back about what happened that day, and I'm sure as hell gonna find out the truth. The trick is waiting for my uncle to go to sleep, and my mom too, because her coming along on this little trip ain't happening this time. My uncle has never stayed up late. Early to bed, early to rise. Military man, always. But waiting for him to bunk down is like waiting for water to boil. Meanwhile, it's me that's bubbling over. I was just beginning to trust Ramon. The worst feeling in the world is having your trust betrayed, especially when you're like me and don't trust many people to begin with. When Kiana texts and says she and JB are on the way to the meetup, I'm literally pacing back and forth in my room. I can't wait to confront Ramon about Nico. I watch the clock. 9:38. My mom's lights are off. My uncle is usually out like clockwork at 9:30, so I make my move. I finally hop out my window, the chill of the night creeping across my neck. I put up my hood and head toward the bodega where Ramon wants to meet. I jog, but not too fast. I don't want to be exhausted when I run up on Ramon. I'm expecting to find everybody chilling and waiting on me when I roll up. But before I even turn onto the block, I can hear them shouting. It's too dark to really see what's going on, so I put on my boosters and sprint down the street, ready to jump in. At this point, I don't really care against who. "What's going on?" I ask, rolling up on the group. They all freeze and turn to me. "We should ask you," Ramon says when he realizes it's me. Then Kiana and JB turn to me too. "What the hell are you talking about?" I yell back, caught off guard. "Don't play dumb," Ramon shouts. "Somebody is lying, and it ain't me." "Me either. I'll introduce you to my mom if you like. She ain't never owned a gun," JB says. "My abuela either," Ramon adds. "Trey," Magda says softly, "did you see the news?" I can feel my heart stop. JB turns on me with his eyes narrowed. Kiana too. "I haven't seen it. What happened?" I say quickly. Just as fast as I say it, Kiana is pulling up an article. I pretend to read it, but I know what it says. My uncle and I just spoke about it. But I didn't imagine the news would be made public. Not this quick, at least. I don't know. "You liar! You did this, didn't you?" Ramon jumps at me. JB steps between us to hold him back. I'm at a loss for words. The pressure gets to me, and I don't think I can hold it in any longer. It was an accident," I cough out. "You did do it," Ramon yells, almost like he can't believe it. "You killed him. You killed Principal Moore." "No, I didn't," I roar. "That's not the accident I mean. Bringing the gun was the accident. I didn't kill nobody. I tried to hide it." "Hide what?" "The gun." I explain how I accidentally took my uncle's bag. So, rather than go home and get suspended from the game, I went into the school through the basement door to miss the metal detectors out front and stashed the gun in the basement bathroom. But when I went back to find it, it was gone. Somebody took it. "That's a bullshit story," Ramon says, bristling, looking at all the other faces around us, urging them to attack me too. "He's lying." "He's not lying," JB interrupts, then looks down at the ground. I turn on him with surprise. He couldn't have shot more with that gun. JB looks directly at me. "You hit it in the toilet tank," right? I stare at him in disbelief, then nod slowly. Yeah, he whispers, and Kiana stares at him too, wordless. I found it, and I thought somebody was going to shoot the school up, so I hid it in the ceiling thinking nobody would find it. There's no way Trey would have known where the gun was. I could almost hug JB in that moment. See, when I asked to go to the bathroom during detention, I went to find it so I could bring it back home. And the next thing I knew, somebody was shooting. So that's where you were during detention, Ramon says. But then he turns on JB before I can even reply. So you had the gun. But now I cut him off. I know you're not accusing nobody, I snap. Tell us who Nico Martinez really is, Ramon. Huh? Ramon says. You heard me. Tell us who Nico is. Magda turns to Ramon. What is he talking about? Yeah, what's up with Nico? JB asks. Ramon sighs, all that energy subsiding. Nico was a Dios. The news drops like a bomb on the group. Hold up, JB shouts. The guy with the criminal record? The guy you wanted to check out is in your gang? And he has an attempted murder charge, I belt out. I didn't know that part, Ramon says. And it's not my gang. The guy is clean. I checked him out. He's on the straightened path. Now who's bullshitting? I snarl. Ramon, did you know this before? When you said you'd look into Nico? Kiana asks. I did. But the only reason I didn't say anything was because I knew it'd make me look suspicious. But it couldn't have been Nico. In fact, he wasn't even there at the time of the shooting. He was already at his other gig. I checked. You should have said something, Magda whispers. I needed all the info first so I could explain. It's no different from Trey not telling us about the gun, or JB not telling us about the gun for that matter. And we still don't know what he did with it or why he had blood on his shirt. Suddenly, a voice from the darkness stops us all cold. It takes me a minute to recognize it, but then Unc steps out of the shadows. You young bloods need to use your heads, he says. I thought that school was supposed to make you smart. I'm about to yell at him to mind his own business, but JB speaks first. What you mean, Unc? What I mean is, if you were as smart as y'all are supposed to be, you would see that somebody is trying to make it look like one of y'all did this. Better pay attention, Unc says, sipping on something inside a brown paper bag. Then he disappears back into the shadows as if he was never there. He's right, y'all. If we don't trust each other, we're never gonna get through this. Somebody else is pulling the strings. We have to tell each other everything. It's the only way, Kiana says. She makes a good point. We all sit there in silence. JB kicks at the ground as if there's more he wants to say. I get anxiety nosebleeds, JB whispers. It's the first time I've seen him unsure of himself. When I get nervous, I sweat, and sometimes my nose bleeds. That's why I had blood on me that day. The gunshots just triggered it. It really doesn't help that all our stories sound like bullshit, I say. Everybody chuckles. It feels good being able to find my funny again. And I don't know what happened to the gun. Same thing as Trey. I went back for it was gone. I just checked when we looked into Omar, JB says. Omar? Magda asks. Yep, Omar. JB jumps in. Me and Kiana went to Promise and searched Omar's locker. We found some disturbing stuff. It's what we wanted to show you tonight before. JB turns to me. You know. JB pulls out a binder and opens it. It's full of all sorts of notes on Principal Moore, places he worked, where he lived. There were even photos of Moore, around the school, and even going in and out of his house. What the hell are these? Ramon asks before I can. These were in Omar's locker, along with this. JB hands a document to Magda. Says he was denied funding from the Promise Fund. JB nods. But the weird thing is, even though it's a stash of money to pay for college for any Promise student that can't afford it, I've never heard of any student getting a grant. Besides, Moore always kicks out any student who isn't on track to get a scholarship based on academics or financial needs. If that's true, it sounds like some sort of scam. Where does that money go, if not to the students? Kiana asks. It was a great question, one we hadn't thought to ask. Nico told me to follow the money, Ramon says. That things just don't add up since Promise is taking in so much donor money, but no one knows where it's being used. He pauses, like he's trying to work out something in his head. Can you imagine if Ennis found out the money he was bringing in Promise was just a scam? Can you imagine if he was in on it? We all shudder at the thought of the conspiracy. Kiana asked a great question. Where does the money go? If we can figure that out, it may be a clue, JB says. There has to be a log of something like that. What about this Omar kid? Magda asks. He's sounding more and more shady. Not only does he have all these stalkerish photos of Moore, but it sounds like he also had beef with him about the denied grant money. I had the same thought, JB says, and I know a way to kill two birds with one stone. I look at JB. I can tell he's thinking the same thing I am. We have to talk to Omar.
Magdalena Peña. It's almost as if whoever really did this did it knowing that there would be plenty of suspects to throw the cops off their trail. Are murderers who get away with it always smart? Or do they get lucky? After we left the bodega, I got home to find Cesar on the couch watching TV. The house arrest monitor is still locked around his ankle. On TV, the local anchor is talking about the upcoming memorial that Promise Prep is putting on for Moore. It's all eerie. I stare for a while, silent. Aren't you glad you never went to Promise? I say eventually, hoping he laughs. I'm relieved when he does. It seems like I haven't heard him laugh in a long, long time. Definitely, he says. Bunch of gangsters in there. We laugh some more. But I can't help but feel sad. Everything is such a mess, and even though I believe more than ever that my cousin is innocent, and now that I know them, JB and Trey too, things have only gotten more complicated. And unless we can make a breakthrough soon, one of them is going to jail. On the TV, the shiny tooth anchor drones on and on. The celebration of this incredible man's life will include the unveiling of the portrait commissioned by his successor, Wilson Hicks, interim president. He will preside over the ceremony where community leaders will ask us all to come together to honor the accomplishments and legacy of DC's one and only Kenneth Moore. Who do you think did it? I ask Cecid when it cuts to commercial. He's silent for so long, I think he either didn't hear me or is choosing to ignore me. But when he speaks, he's shrugging, staring down at his ankle monitor. This kind of murder is about power, he says. When powerful men are killed, it's always about power. A lot of dudes from the streets go to Promise. Somebody wanted Moore to know he wasn't really the king. Seems like being on the throne is dangerous, I say. Exhausting, he answers. He sounds so tired. I scoot over a little bit and rest my head on his shoulder, like I used to. My brother doesn't move away.
Nobody. I can't say anything. I have too much to lose. Sometimes the key to survival is staying invisible.
Kiana Glenn. It's midnight when Magda texts the whole group. Who wanted to prove that Moore wasn't king? I send off my reply. Everybody keep your eyes open for answers to that question today. I've been doing a lot of research, and if I've learned one thing, it's this. Money makes the world go round. And not just the world, but schools. And especially schools like Promise. I mean, it's already bullshit that some schools get more help than others in the first place. And somehow schools with kids who look like me always seem to get the short end of the stick. It's like everything else in this world. And it makes me not only want to be a lawyer, but a lawmaker or something. But prep schools like Promise are another thing. And as I sit on my bed swiping through my phone, I learn more and more. Principals like Moore can quickly become rock stars. And it's almost like one of those evangelical preachers that gets famous for speaking the word, and then goes on tour saving souls under a spotlight. I find dozens of articles chronicling his rise in D.C. He was so beloved. I find pictures of him, old and new, with teachers, parents, and students. In one, he stands beaming with Mrs. Hall. Her smile is so big it looks like it might crack. The photo was taken when Promise first opened. The quote under the picture was about how proud Mrs. Hall was to be joining Moore on this endeavor. Yeah, I mutter under my breath, thinking of what Moore did to JB. This endeavor of trying to fight teenagers like they're grown men. The more I learn about Moore and his career path, the more I start to get a fuller picture of who he was. Beyond the bullshit rules that he enforced harder and harder at Promise, he seemed like the kind of guy who liked to be admired. In some ways, he wasn't that different from the Mercy girls coming to tutor the boys in ESL. He looked at dudes like JB and Trey and Ramon and saw something wrong with them. Something that needed to be crushed into a box, breaking all the bones to make them fit. Maybe they reminded him of something he didn't like about himself. It makes it hard to look at all the smiling photos of Moore in suits. At benefits, at fundraisers, at Capitol Hill events, shaking hands and getting patted on the back and grinning at the camera. When guys like JB aren't even allowed to smile if they're inside Promise's walls. That he gets a nosebleed and it's written into his permanent record that he got into a fight. I put my phone to sleep, letting my mind wander. Inside Promise's walls, Moore was king, and no one challenged him. Inside a kingdom, the king can say or do no wrong. When you hear about a king being toppled, like in Game of Thrones, the threat often comes from inside the kingdom. My thoughts go immediately to Stanley Ennis. According to what I can find, Ennis is a king in his own right. He funds expeditions into jungles and up mountains, owns lots of businesses, and donates enough to get things named after him. But when the threatening emails were released, I thought it didn't sound like him. You were supposed to be there for me, and you decided to turn your back. I look outside at the quiet street, and I can't help but imagine the neighborhood as a potential territory. Not of a gang like Diosas del Humo, but of politicians and school boards and aldermen, and principals and all the people that posed in photos with Principal Moore, hyping him up as the savior of lost boys. Meanwhile, he was drilling the joy out of them. This is all their kingdom. People like Stanley Ennis, paid to build a gym at a school, then bring in boys to play in it. Toy soldiers, chess pieces, moved around a board while they rake in state funding. I had no idea there was so much money in schools like Promise until I started reading about Moore and his kingly career. I pull out my phone once again and text the group. Promise boys, when is the next game day for the basketball team? We need to find a way to tail Ennis and learn more.
Chapter 23. Confrontation. JB. Me, Trey, and Ramon wait up the block from Promise just before dismissal. Traven brought his binoculars so we can keep our distance, but also see the front door. I have to say, working with Trey and Ramon was starting to have its perks. We figured we'll wait for Omar to leave school and then confront him to see what's what. I don't think this kid will be a problem, but I can't shake the fact that if he's the shooter, he may still have that gun on him. He'd need to use it on me if we get to boxing. I didn't know Omar well, but I know the kid is creepy. He never spoke, never really even looked your way. Finding all those photos of Moore freaked me out. I hate to say it, but I could totally see him pulling the trigger. We all wore our uniforms to blend in as kids pour into the street. Trey's idea, but I doubt it works. I look at my watch. 5 p.m. Any moment now. And right on cue, the school bell sounds off and Promise Boys flood the streets, itching to get out of that place. There he is, Ramon calls out. He nods to a skinny kid walking down the steps. Yep, that's him. Looks like he's coming this way, I say. We duck behind the wall of the school as Omar walks towards us. When he passes, we start on his trail. When should we move on him? Ramon asks. Soon as the coast is clear, I say. He's probably walking to the bus. Just got to get to him before there. We walk a few more blocks before we're clear of the Promise crowd. It's just us and Omar on the street. Now's our chance. I lengthen my stride to catch Omar. I hear Ramon and Trey quicken their pace too. As I get closer, I realize Omar has his earphones in and can't hear me. I use that to my advantage and get right up on him. I reach out for his book bag and snatch it off his back, making sure I get that gun away from him in case he has it. He whips around. Yo, what you doing? He squeaks out, but when he sees the three of us standing there, he breaks out into a run. Shit, get him! I shout. We sprint after Omar for a few more blocks. I have to admit, the kid's fast. Probably from running from bullies his whole life. Trey finally catches up and tackles him to the ground. Ramon and I run up shortly after, standing over Omar, trying to catch our breath. What the hell y'all doing? He cries out. We could ask you the same. Why are you running? You mean from 3 suspected murders that seem to want to attack me? Oh, I don't know. What do you want? His fire surprises me. I expected him to cower, but he doesn't. Explain this, I say, taking out his binder. My binder? How did you get this? Never mind how I got it. Why do you have these images of Moore? And tell us what you know about the Promise Fund. Omar's face changes as if he knows something we don't. He stands up and brushes himself off. He looks around and I can't tell if he's checking for help or to make sure we're alone. He takes a step towards us and leans in. None of you did this, did you? We all look at each other. No, we didn't, I reply. But we can't say the same for you. We hear you were the last person seen with Moore, and according to that letter, you had motive. Omar shakes his head. You don't know what you're in the middle of. I have those images of Moore because I was doing a piece on him for the school board. He was lobbying for another Promise campus and wanted to make a presentation. Omar scratches his brow nervously as he takes a deep breath, preparing to continue. I figured I should at least get some new camera equipment, but he told me this was an opportunity for me, that when the board saw my work, they'd maybe support me in college or some shit. But I started to see things. Like, despite being told the Promise Fund is exclusively for tuition help, the board requires funds be accessible to all students for a number of reasons. Books, uniforms, extracurricular equipment, not just college. Moore never told us that. So when he denied my request, I knew something was up. Omar paused, checking over his shoulder. We did the same. We seemed to be alone, so he continued. I started following him outside of our sessions. Moore was unraveling. He was stealing money from the fund. It was like a bomb drop. Principal Moore always preached perfection, excellence, and discipline, but it was all a lie. Honestly, I'm disappointed. Whatever Moore was doing may have gotten him killed. I believe somebody found out about what he was doing and started threatening him. Those emails, Ramon says. Exactly. Whoever did this knew what he was doing and didn't like it. Me and the fellas exchange a glance. Omar's story sounds pretty legit, especially considering the information we already had. Don't mean it's the truth, though. Well, hold on. What about you being seen with Moore before the murder? I ask. I told you, he had me doing this piece on him. I was going to interview him that evening. It was the last part of the project. I was in his office trying to set up the mic, but needed some tape to get it to stick. I left his office, and before I could even find my tape, I heard the shot. Look, Omar says as he pulls a flyer from his pocket. It's a vigil for Moore. I'm going to be playing the tape we worked on at this. You have to believe me. We all stand there, staring at the flyer to commemorate Moore's untimely death, remembering what it was like to hear a gunshot in the last place you'd expect. Violence in my city was so common, but I never expected it behind the walls of Promise. Not like this. It just reminded me that we're not safe anywhere. You all have any other suspects? Omar asks. We thought Diosis could be responsible, I say, looking at Ramon. Word was, Moore got a general arrested, and they have a couple inside guys. But that was a dead end. There's still Mrs. Hall, too. She showed up to Promise the day Moore was killed, and she's married to one of the cops on the case. Pretty suspicious, Trey adds. Omar looks up. I don't think Mrs. Hall could have done it. I saw her headed to the game just before the shot went off. Trey, Ramon, and I exchange a glance. As much as it stung to lose one more suspect, checking Mrs. Hall off the list felt like a step in the right direction. I break the silence. Well, if not Mrs. Hall, and not you, and not the Diosis, I guess that leaves Ennis. Stanley Ennis. He's a big donor to the Promise Fund, and he's the last person on the visitation log for Moore. Omar's face lights up. I know him. He's always asking me to shoot sizzle reel for the basketball games. And as I've been looking more into the Promise Fund, I discovered something today. Can I see my book bag? I stare at Omar, wondering if I can trust him. I take a look inside the book bag to make sure there's no weapon in there. It's only school supplies and a couple camera lenses. Sorry, bro. Here you go, I say, handing over Omar's bag. He digs through the bag, combing through loose papers until he finds what he's looking for. Okay, here it is. I was able to tap into the system and see what requests had been accepted and denied from the Promise Fund. There's a lot of no's, pretty much all no's. But there's one kid who always gets the money he asks for. Look at the name. Omar turns the page around and points. Stan Lee. Stan Lee? Like the Marvel guy? I ask. Yeah, or like the donor guy. Stan Lee Ennis. Guys, there's no Stan Lee at our school. Stan Lee Ennis is the biggest donor, right? Funds are being stolen, and somehow a kid that doesn't go here is always getting withdrawals from our money? Either Stanley was stealing from the school and Moore had to pay up, maybe Ennis was even blackmailing him, or Moore was stealing for himself and using a name like Stanley's to throw anyone off the trail. Either way, only one of those guys is still breathing. The pieces all fall into place. Stanley and Moore were running some sort of operation. The business went south, and somebody had to pay the price. No different from in the streets. There's a game today, Trey says without even thinking. Ennis is probably in the school right now.
Brandon Jenkins. When Trey texted me asking to do him a favor, I almost said no. My mom still doesn't know we've been talking. If she found out, she'd go ballistic. But he's my boy. I play the one, he plays the two. And I already did him wrong by icing him out. Kind of owe him one. But damn, I should have said no. I should be heading to practice, but instead, I had to be a fool and agree to follow Stanley Ennis after school. When I asked Trey what the hell for, he just said this was all to find the truth about who killed Mr. Moore. And again, I owe him. So that's how I've spent the last 45 minutes, hiding in the locker room, the bathroom, anywhere to avoid Mr. Reggie, while he sweeps the school to make sure everyone but the athletes are gone, and waiting for Mr. Ennis to leave. I don't know how the hell Trey expects me to follow him once we get outside. It's not like I'm James Bond or like I have a stack of disguises. Plus, Ennis knows me way too well. If he sees me and recognizes me, he's just going to ask me straight up what the hell I'm doing. And everybody knows I'm a terrible liar. So there I am hiding in the conference room, trying to keep my feet from falling asleep, and texting Trey to tell him this was a terrible idea. when I hear voices coming closer. This conference room is right by the door Mr. Ennis always leaves through. He parks his Porsche in the side lot where the cameras are, so I know one of the voices has to be his. The conference room has glass windows on all 4 sides, so if they're coming from the wrong angle, they will absolutely look in and see me. It's a lot to take on, Ennis is saying. Thank God they're coming from the hallway behind me and they won't see me unless they come inside. But you're a man of strategy. I assume Mr. Ennis is talking to Coach, as that's usually who he talks to when he comes to practice. Mr. Ennis likes to see how his investment is going. The more games we win, the happier he is. I'm never really sure why guys like Mr. Ennis care so much about high school sports, but with him specifically, I always assumed he was trying to relive his youth or something. You just need to hold down the fort, Ennis is saying. You've got a big job ahead of you, but if anyone can handle it, it's you. My heart stops to pound. I know in movies people always get caught because of something stupid like their phone ringing. My phone is always on silent, but I check just in case, then stuff it in my hoodie pocket, trying not to breathe too loudly. I appreciate your confidence, the person Ennis is talking to says. The voice is familiar, but he's talking low, so I can't quite place it. It's going to be a hard transition for all of us, but we'll muddle through. We'll do more than muddle, Ennis says, chuckling. I hear a rustle of paper. This is all you need right here. Just make sure nothing gets interrupted and it will all smooth out. Smooth is good. I recognize the voice now. Dean Hicks. Principal Hicks. I'm close enough to the door where I could lean over and peek, but I don't dare. I just plan to stay the course. Who knows? Maybe even make some improvements. Well, you know that's what I like to hear. I can tell Ennis is smiling from ear to ear just from his voice. Then he lowers his voice to almost a whisper. I hope you're willing to do what it takes to make this partnership worth it. For both of us. I've always been a businessman, Hicks answers. That's why Moore hired me. Cut through the bullshit. Well, that's exactly what we need, especially with the Promise Fund. Smoothing that out too? Doing my best. Good. We can pick up where Moore left off. How are you holding up? Any arrests yet? Not that I know of, but we know one of those boys did it. It's only a matter of time. Maybe soon they can apply some pressure, get them to turn on each other, you know? That's what makes my stomach turn, but Ennis makes a sound of agreement. Well, they need to find the gun. All these police they've had in and out of the school, not great press, I've got to say. They need to search high and low, find it, then make a damn arrest. Then we can be done with this whole mess and move on, get back to business. Then suddenly Hicks shouts, Solomon! What are you doing in this hall? I realize I've had my eyes squeezed shut trying to be invisible, but now they snap open, and I find that I'm looking directly at Solomon, who is standing outside the conference room on the opposite side. From where he's standing, he's looking straight over my head at Hicks and Ennis, and he can see me plain as day. He stares at me, an expression of shock on his face. Trey once told me Solomon is a snitch, so my heart basically stops, knowing he's about to rat me out. And to the intern principal, no less. Solomon blinks and then looks up over my head at Mr. Ennis and Hicks. I just finished up moving the boxes from your old office to the new office, Solomon says. He walks the length of the window but doesn't look at me again. I wanted to see if there was anything else you needed me to do before I left. I don't dare breathe, but my heart unsticks from my ribs and starts to beat again. I can't believe he didn't snitch. Thank you, my boy. In fact, there's one last thing you can do. Mrs. Hall is here to collect the last of her things. There are a few boxes in the main lobby that Mr. Reggie left there for her. She should be arriving any minute if you'd go and take care of that. After that, you're free to leave. Got it? Solomon walks right past me but doesn't look my way again. When he's out of earshot, Hicks says, One of the good ones. Then he and Mr. Ennis are walking through the doors to the side lot, the rest of their conversation taken outside with them. I gradually breathe again, then crab walk over to the door, staying low. They're gone. I quickly scurry out of the conference room and down the opposite hall, my phone already in my hand, texting Trey. Ennis seemed on edge. He was talking to Hicks. Didn't seem to be too bent out of shape on more, though. It was all business. They talked about the Promise Fund. Think he might be your guy?
Email received by JB, Trey, and Ramon. Sender, dartgamble@anonmail.com. To JB, Trey, Ramon. I saw you. I saw you murderers skulking around the school. What are you looking for? Pretty soon the police will nail all three of you. Stay away or you'll be sorry.
Nobody. This is the part I hate, but also the part I love. When I walk into a room and no one remembers my name, there's a comfort in being nobody. You risk nothing, you lose nothing. A lifetime of risk has taught me that it doesn't matter how low you fly, as long as you don't hit the ground. Too high, too much of anything, smiling, frowning, sleeping, moving, and people start to notice. I prefer to fly under the radar. I'm perfect for a place like Promise. I recognize that not many are. Here inside Promise, it's easy to be invisible. People don't mind asking you to do things when you're nobody, because even when you do what they ask, they still don't see you as somebody. You're just another part of the machine to them. You are the printer, you are the pen, you are the keyboard, you are the phone, you are even a video camera. Eventually, people forget you're there, see you the way they would see a lamp. They say things in front of you without thought. They show their hand. You see everything, even the things they don't mean for you to see, what they don't want you to see. As nobody, you are used to blending in. You excel at disappearing in the gray paint. You could stand inside a high school, panning down the hallway with a camera in hand, recording footage of the newly hung banners, some of them with paint still shining wet. In the background is the roar of the gymnasium filled with teenagers, all of them becoming somebodies in each other's presence, in this rare period of permissible noise and joy. Then everyone heads into the gym, the door closes, and you are once again alone, a nobody surrounded by no one. You walk backward down the empty hallway, imagining you had a chance to show more creativity in how you see Promise. This is your favorite way to experience school. It's almost as if it's in safe mode. No one looking, everyone engaged, no one pretending to remember your name. And then the roar of voices, two of them shouting, you don't know from where. Then there they are, square in your eye line. Two men, one black, one white, cursing, swearing. They argue. If only you had your camera. Then there's the gun. You immediately turn away at the sight, but you hear it let loose. The bigness of the shot, the way it filled up the whole hall, seemed to crack the ceiling. You don't have to run. You know how to disappear. You fade into a doorway. There 1 minute, gone the next. You see the white man come out of the office, but he doesn't see you. He hurries away. He goes into the stairway across from the office. There you are, just the man I came to see. Inside I jump. Outside I swivel calmly in the office chair to face the counter, where Stanley Enos is leaning on his elbows, dress shirt sleeves rolled up. He's grinning like a salesman. He always smiles at me like this, and I always wonder what he thinks he's selling me. I know he doesn't actually care if I like him. These rich guys don't usually have to care about stuff like that. Hi, Mr. Enos. You've got us all ready for the memorial service tomorrow? Everything queued up? I nod. Yes, sir, for the most part. Putting the finishing touches on things now. You have the new highlights from the last game? Of course, we want it to look tasteful. No need to show off at the man's memorial. Yes, sir. It looks great. I can send it to you in advance if you'd like to see. His smile grows wider. This is what he was after. Always pushing people to do what he wants. That would be fantastic. Can I send you any notes I have? I promise it won't be last minute. Sure, Mr. Enos. You're a champ, he grins. I am the computer. I am the camera. I am the desk. I am a phone. But I also have a phone. When it vibrates in my pocket, I wait until Mr. Enos grins his way out of the door to check. Trey, another somebody they've tried to make a nobody. Hey, Omar, we just received some bugged-out email. You didn't tell anyone we came to the school, did you? I stare at the message for a long time before I answer. No, I reply eventually. My heart should be beating fast, but I feel a strange calmness, like I'm sitting inside a sandcastle watching the tide come in. It's inevitable. I still can't believe they think I killed Moore. I'm almost offended by it, but I also want to laugh. I don't, though. Considering what they've been up against, no wonder they're desperate to figure it all out. For the first time, regret claws at me. I should have said something when I realized Moore wasn't handling school funds the proper way. Am I a coward? But I'm a nobody who'd listen. And even if they did listen, even if I became a somebody for a brief moment, why would they believe me without proof? And who knows what type of danger I'd be putting myself in? The real murderer could come for me next.
Chapter 24. Revelations. Ramon. I can't shake that email I received from the killer. It has to be from the killer. Not because I'm afraid, but something about the email seemed familiar to me. It's almost like I could hear the voice coming through the computer, but I can't quite make out who it is. In all honesty, whoever sent it seemed desperate, which must mean we're getting closer to the truth. I decide to send a text to the group to see what's what. Ramon, Trey and JB, y'all get a weird email? Trey, yeah, gotta be someone still at the school. Ennis was there for game day. Kiana. JB says he wishes he'd seen something. I think back to Omar, trying to remember if I saw anybody stand out. Anybody that was looking our way, but I come up short. Magda. So it seems like with the email, plus the conversation Brandon overheard with Ennis and Hicks, and the promise fund stuff that Omar mentioned, Ennis is our guy. Luis. Moore must have done something to go back on their arrangement, so Ennis got rid of him. Kiana. I said it early on, follow the money. So now, how do we nail him? What we need is hard proof, but it's not like some video footage is going to magically appear after the cops have been searching for so long. Hold up. Maybe the security cameras at Promise didn't spot anything, but what if someone got video of the game? Then it comes to me. I remember Omar saying he planned to interview Principal Moore on camera right before he was shot. I shoot him a text. Ramon. Omar, did you end up getting any footage of Moore the day of the shooting? Omar. No, I never even set up the camera. Had some trouble with my mic. Ramon, you think your mic picked up anything? Omar. I don't think so, but I'll check. Disappointed, I put my phone down and lie back on the bed. It was worth a shot to ask Omar, but obviously it was too good to be true. I think about everything that happened and how upside down my life has become. I think about my days at Promise and those last couple of days at school before Moore was killed. He was spiraling out of control. That's why he treated me, JB, and Trey that way. It wasn't because of us. And then it hits me. We aren't bad kids. Moore was just a bad man. This whole time I've been thinking I did something wrong or I made some mistake. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Moore was dealing with his own shit. But then, another thought hits me and I shoot up in the bed as if a jolt of electricity shoots through me. I remember why that email feels so familiar to me.
Chapter 25. The Sting. JB. Kiana might be the smartest girl I've ever met. And I can't tell if it's because she remembers every single thing she sees or because her brain is constantly creating new stuff. Either way, I'm pretty sure they're both signs of a genius. There's no way this plan would have ever existed if it wasn't for her. And Omar, I guess. But mostly Kiana. And that's exactly what I tell her while we're standing behind Rocky's store, waiting for the others to show up before Moore's memorial. I know, she agrees, smiling that cute smile. But then she gets serious, looking me dead in my eyes. But I need to know one thing. Would you do this for me? If I was up against something like this, would you pull out all the stops to help me? I stare at her as hard as I can, so she can feel my eyes pouring into hers. When all this is over, I'm going to write you a poem that tells you everything I would do in this world for you. But for right now, I'll just say this. I would hoist the whole planet up on my back and carry it around the sun if you so much as whispered for me to do it. I can tell by the way her eyes warm up that she believes me. I want to kiss her right there. Even while I'm sweating and my nose feels like it might bleed. But then Ramon and the others show up, all with hats on and hoodies up. We are definitely in disguise. So, Kiana says, we've got some options. We've got promised uniforms, of course. Which, Luis, if you're going in, I think you should probably opt for that. Magda, I recommend you wear the dress. I'm going to put on the Mercy uniform if that's cool with you. The point is, we mostly don't want any associations being made between who we are and where we actually fit in, just in case we catch someone's eye. Luis, you're kind of the exception. For you, it should look like it's just another day, you know? So, what? Trey says, raising an eyebrow. I'm supposed to dress up like a butler or something? Like they do in the movies? Not exactly. She laughs, and a thrill jolts through me at the warm sound. For you, and JB, and Ramon, I borrowed suits from my dad and my brother. I think it's best if people see you as members of the community who've come to pay respects. Even better if they see a suit and assume you're grown. Ain't nobody going to believe Ramon is grown? Luis teases, pushing his friend. And, no shade, but I don't think any of these suits are going to fit me, I say, eyeing the garment bags. She smirks at me and holds one aloft. Nice try, Kiana says. But my dad is 6'5". Hope you don't mind shark skin. I'm going to be out here looking like an OG, I groan. Good. That's the point of disguises, so people think you're something you're not. We all take turns changing behind the dumpsters in the alley in the back of Rocky's. Better than what usually probably goes down here. Kiana looks cute in the Mercy uniform, but nothing looks better than her usual tight pants, huge shirt, and hoop earrings. She has her own style, and I love that about her. You sure Omar's going to come through today? Trey asked me once we all finished changing. Magda stands there in the floral dress that's too big. He said he was just putting on the finishing touches, Ramon says. He better not back out last minute. I wish we didn't need to risk getting in trouble today, Trey says. I don't know, man. I mean, technically, it's not like we're banned from school grounds. We're just suspended from school. The memorial's public, Ramon responds. Yeah, so why are we putting on disguises then? Just a precaution, Kiana says. No unnecessary attention. Let's focus on the task at hand. We may be exonerating you all today. I check my phone and see it's 11:45. We decide it's time. I wasn't nervous until just now. I hope I don't get in trouble for cutting school, Magda mutters. Yeah, me neither, says Luis. Kiana does a double take. Wait, Luis, why did you cut school? We're going to your school. You could have just gone into the gymnasium with your class, and we'd see you there. He blinks at her, then shrugs. I just didn't want to miss anything. We all laugh at that. God, what a day. Then Ramon looks at me. You sure that basement door is going to be open? I picked it when Kiana and I broke into Omar's locker, I say. Yeah, but they probably make sure it's kept shut now, Ramon says. You'd think, Trey says. He holds up his phone. But my boy Brandon checked this morning, and it's still unlocked. Okay, so we'll all go in the basement door and then we'll split up, Kiana says. She turns to me with big eyes. But listen, if it seems risky and there's anybody looking or whatever, then bail, okay? Do not go in if it's going to be bad. Because it's not even worth it. We can meet up after and I plant a kiss on her lips in front of everybody. By now, I know how she gets. Sometimes she's all bugged out and she needs to be stopped before she gets too worked up. She smiles up at me. I got it, I say. You got it? She agrees. We got it! Trey chants, like it's a basketball game. And Luis takes it up too. We all laugh. We've heard them at games. This time, though, nobody says, I promise. We know by now what good those are. We stream in silently through the basement door and immediately all go in different directions. I can't stop thinking about what Omar has for us. Today needs to go right. But I don't want to get my hopes up. I can hear the distant sounds of crowds moving through the school. It feels like game day when the halls of promise are allowed to be talked in, laughed in. The unfairness of it suddenly hits me. Why does it have to be like this? I'm not a bad guy. None of us are. So why do I have to go all day without even smiling? Even if my name is cleared, I don't think I ever want to come back to this place. It would be just like going to jail. What's the difference at this point? I make my way alone down the hall, and all the memories of that day come flooding back. Asking for permission to go to the bathroom and not knowing if I'd actually be allowed to go and piss. Even then, with permission, Hicks stopping me and interrogating me, going down to the bathroom, trying to have one moment where I'm not being stared at by teachers just waiting for me to put one eyelash out of line. I hadn't realized it until just now. But these past few days since the murder, being out of school and out from under constant surveillance, are the most relaxed I've been in as long as I can remember. This can't be normal, man. It just can't be. And from now on, it won't.
Chapter 26. Almost showtime. Trey. It feels weird to be in the gym again, especially because I'm wearing a suit instead of being suited up to play. The only thing I can think about is the game I should have played that Moore screwed me out of. The one that would have absolutely launched my path toward playing in college. As I move through the crowd, aiming for the rows and rows of chairs they've got lined up on the gym floor, I can't help but feel those feelings all over again. The rage, the disappointment, the embarrassment. It makes no sense that one single person can have that much control over another person's future. I choose a seat in the sea of chairs, looking up at the stage where Dean Hicks and Mr. Innes and other rich people are all lined up. My body floods with anger seeing them up there, looking all polished, being celebrated while I'm the one suspected of murder. I take a deep breath and try to stay focused. Me and Ramon and the others all came in separately, drifting away from each other in the crowd. No one notices us, at least not as far as I can tell. This is the first time I've ever been inside my own school and not felt like I was walking on eggshells, which is funny because I'm literally here sneaking in. At 12 o'clock on the dot, Hicks rises eagerly from his chair and moves toward the lectern. Behind him, the huge projector screen ripples, and when he greets the audience, a hush falls over the chatter. It's wonderful to see so many faces here to celebrate the life of my colleague, and truly, my good friend, Kenneth Moore. Everyone here knows the impact he had on every room he entered, and it does the heart good to see a room this big filled with the evidence of that impact. Surely, we are all here in reverence of all he accomplished. I've been to hella funerals, and I always have to make myself stay awake. Not because I'm bored, but because it always feels so insincere. Some folks get uncomfortable when people get up there and cry, snot dripping. But I prefer that, honestly, even if I don't feel that way about the person who died, because it feels like it's coming from a real place. When Hicks finishes his stuffy speech, others get up and tell stories about Mr. Moore. All the people lined up on stage in their suits and shiny shoes are there to speak on his memory. But nobody cries. And all the stories have the same tone. Good old Kenneth Moore. Or, you may not always agree with him, but you can't argue that he... All of a sudden, I just want to get out of here. Even if it means I have to walk past that huge-ass portrait of Principal Moore that's hanging in the lobby. No reason that painting needed to be that big. More and more, this all just feels like a bunch of egos swimming in a shark tank. Mr. Ennis takes the mic next. He's dressed up like always. I saw his wife somewhere in the crowd, too. Fancy pantsuit, like she's running for president. Or like he is. I just want to echo what everyone so far has said. He booms into the mic. Promise is a special place, and it's all thanks to Kenneth Moore. I glance around the gym, for the first time wondering if the rest of the student body is thinking what I'm thinking. That, yeah, Promise is a special place thanks to Moore. A specially fucked up place. I catch sight of Ramon, and a deep frown is etched across his face. I wanted to take this opportunity to announce a big change to Promise as we celebrate this man's life. Going forward, this school will be officially renamed as Kenneth Moore Promise Preparatory. We thought it only fitting that as Principal Moore is no longer with us in the flesh, that the school bears his name, so that we may always carry the promise of his mission in our hearts. He keeps speaking, but I just sit there, feeling sort of hollow at this announcement. Naming the school after Moore? I mean, big deal, it's just a name, it's just a school. But as I listen to all the people around me clapping and nodding, one thought just comes to my head in a heavy block. It's not fair. It's just not fair. It makes me sound like a little kid throwing a fit because I fouled out in a game or something, but it's not fair. The guy who made all of us so miserable and strutted around this place getting in kids' faces and yelling and smelling like alcohol, that dude gets to shuffle into the afterlife with everyone telling all these bullshit stories about him and putting his name on buildings? And what about us? Me and JB and Ramon. The stories being told about us will never be engraved in gold. I sigh so loud that the woman next to me shifts. The applause is dying down, and now Hicks is back at the mic. How long do they want to hear themselves talk? Now, it is my pleasure to announce some student speakers, Hicks says, who wanted to share some final words for their beloved leader. My heart races as I search the crowd looking for Omar. Where is he? This plan won't work without him. I had a feeling he'd ditch us, although I hoped for otherwise. Then, right as I go to text the team to abort the mission, I spot him, sitting in the very back of the stage, perched like a thin bird. He has a way of just disappearing into the chair, into the crowd. He makes himself unnoticeable somehow, just melts right past the eye. But right now, I can see him, and he's looking at me. We give each other a nod. Almost showtime.
Chapter 27. Grand Finale. Ramon. Someone must have noticed me, and after that, there's no holding back the tide. Promise boys are elite at texting without being noticed, and I know word gets around quick. They're here. It's not just students. Invisible nudges are issued, silent pointing fingers. They're here. The 3 boys they think did it. There are murderers, or at the very least one, in our midst. I try to ignore them all. I keep my eyes on the stage, where I've been staring this whole time. It all feels like such a masquerade. I'm considering getting up and leaving when Trey texts the group chat. We're almost there. Grand finale coming real soon. I suddenly feel like my chair is molten lava, melding me to it, unable to move. It's not like we're breaking any laws. The cops didn't ban us from this building. But with a crowd here to mourn a man we're suspected of killing, this will get uncomfortable very quickly. Trey doesn't write back, and I'm afraid to look in his direction. I can feel more eyes on me, crawling like roaches. I'm also afraid of what Trey must be feeling, knowing that he's the one who brought the weapon into the school. Of all of us, he looks the guiltiest. Becca is on stage, giving a speech about how inspired she was by Moore during his life, and how thanks to him, she's going to be a principal too. Pfft. Of course she is. I feel for the students she thinks she's saving. Who knows, Becca says with that smile she always has on when she knows someone is watching. Maybe one day, I'll be principal of Promise. For the first time throughout this whole clown show, I hear a couple chuckles from the audience. Antonio Fermiesel is one of them. I would know his whistle-nose laugh anywhere. It makes me want to laugh too. And so does the look on Hick's face. He can't snap off on us here the way he would during the school day. There's news cameras here, for God's sake. But he scans the audience with a deadly look, warning us all with promise of later viciousness. Another text comes in from Trey. Heads up, y'all. Here come Mr. Reggie. Sure enough, Mr. Reggie is moving from the front of the gym in a straight line toward the back, his eyes scanning the chairs. He must have gotten word that we were here. I lower my head, and I know the others do too. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see him zeroing in on Trey. That figures. Trey's always the one that people remember as the bad kid, just because he's always clowning. I imagine them using it against him in court, and it makes my stomach turn. And for our final student speaker, Hicks is saying, and it stops Mr. Reggie in his path. He loiters near the gym wall, squinting into the audience. Trey has his face turned toward me, just the right angle to go unseen by Mr. Reggie. I can tell Mr. Reggie's frustrated. He's not about to interrupt the memorial service by making a scene, and then have it be some other dude. I know the suit is throwing him off, and I give an internal hat tip to Kiana. It is my pleasure to announce Omar Rosario, a student worker and also Promise's amateur photographer and videographer. You may have noticed the looping videos and stills on all our school's monitors. If you did, then you have seen the fine work of this student. We have him to thank for today's video honoring Principal Moore's life. I have seen it myself, and trust me, there won't be a dry eye in the house. He welcomes Omar to the lectern with a sweep of his arm, and for the first time, the entire student body sees this kid. I've seen him 1,000 times, of course, almost always in the office. Every time I've gotten detention, it was Omar who gave me my sign slip in the office, always mumbling an answer when I said thanks, never saying more than necessary. He was in ESL with me for 1 year, but moved on quickly. I never knew if he was supposed to be in there at the beginning or not. If he just got shunted in there by Moore because he speaks Spanish, or if he just learned English really fast. Who knows? Omar is usually a mystery, but today, he walks up to the mic, tall and straight, ever so slightly hunched shoulders. His thin hands grasp the mic, adjusting it to reach his mouth. Hello, he says to the gym. He doesn't mumble. His voice is soft but clear. My name is Omar Rosario, and I'd like to thank Principal Hicks for my introduction, as well as the opportunities he and Promise have provided me, allowing me to explore my interest in photography and videography while working toward graduation. I hope everyone here enjoys the film, and I'm sorry it got a little long. It was very difficult to choose which scenes to include and which to cut. The lights dim on cue, and when I glance at Trey, I see he no longer has to hide his face from Mr. Reggie. The dark does it for him, and Mr. Reggie isn't looking at him anymore anyway. Everyone is gazing up at the big glowing screen. Omar has returned to his seat on the stage and looks politely down at his hands as the video starts to play. It begins with Promise, as it originally looked. Pretty much the same, but a little newer, a little shinier. There were a lot more posters then, clubs and organizations and stuff. And there's more, walking down the hallway, grinning, his hair a lot less gray and his suit a lot less fly. Someone must have had this footage on an old phone. It lacks resolution and the volume isn't crisp. But it's him, and honestly, I might have liked him back then. Mrs. Hall walks next to him, beaming. There are even shots of him entering classrooms and cutting it up a little bit. All the boys are still dressed in starchy uniforms, but their faces aren't starched the same way. People look a little more relaxed. There are even shots of them talking in the hall. I notice with a start that there's no blue line on the floor. When had that been introduced? You hear people laughing, and you don't hear the beep 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 of endless demerits. As the film progresses, it's like watching a time lapse. Students getting older, smiles getting smaller. The halls getting less cluttered with students and posters. The walls seem to get grayer. There was a period of time before Hicks arrived, and then suddenly he's there. Serious shots of the two men moving down the hallway, deep in conversation. Shots of them leaning over paperwork on a conference table, posed almost like architects. I glance up at Hicks, and his face is clouded with emotion. His friendship with Moore blooming right here before everyone's eyes. It would make me sad if I didn't know how they backed each other up, but never us. How sometimes it seemed like they would sit in Moore's office and come up with new ways to make us stiff and silent. Ennis appears in some of these shots, and he always smiles broadly every time he shows up on screen. Ahmad is kind of a brilliant filmmaker. I start to notice the way he never has a clip of Ennis in the foreground. He's always in the background, chatting or watching or smiling. Because that's who he is at Promise, the behind-the-scenes guy, the man with the money, the guy who whispers in the ear of the guy at the wheel. He gets older, too, as the film goes on, another testament to Omar's talent. It's all chronological, and it's not so much a sizzle reel of Moore's career, but a history of promise from past to present. Then there's me. I catch a glimpse of myself in the background of a cafeteria shot, smiling as I dish someone a pupusa. Did anyone else see me? I'm afraid to glance around. Did Omar include that shot on purpose? Then there's Moore in the hallway, and he looks the way he did in the days leading up to the murder. Slightly disheveled in his fancy suit, walking stiffly down the hallway. It's a long shot. He's far from the camera, but you can hear him shouting at boys in the halls. I glance at Hicks, and he's frowning. Then there's JB. The camera just pans past him, as if happening to catch him deep in thought. He closes his locker, then walks quietly down the blue line. Moore again, slamming a dude's locker closed after a kid removes his books. The kid jumps. You can hear some muffled groans in the crowd. Then there's Trey, pulling up from a three-pointer on the basketball court, laughing entirely too loud, his eyes lit up with a joke. Moore wasn't even in that shot. What was Omar doing? I glance again at the stage and see Ennis leaning over to speak to Hicks, who is shaking his head. Then the gym fills with noise. Game day. Banners, colors, shouting and cheering and chanting. The hallway floods with people. The camera mills through them like a bird, dodging this way and that way. It's the feeling of being in a crowd buoyed up by the energy and excitement. Shots from the top of the bleachers, taking in the packed gym. Shots from the doorway, capturing the fast-moving feet of both teams, down and back, down and back. Shots from the hallway, the banner over the gym door that says, "We promise." And the camera's moving smoothly down the hallway, backward, like being pulled through time. Slow at first, then faster. All the lockers blurring. Somewhere in the distance you can still hear the gym roaring. The shouting gradually drops down in volume, then rises again. Not a blur of many voices, but the sharp punctuation of two as the screen goes black. But the audio continues. All you had to do was cut me in, Ken. Could I have made it any clearer? I warned you, and now we're here. I told your ass it's not happening. How many ways do I have to tell you no? The first voice suddenly fills with hatred, transforming it into something beastly. Think I'm going to just sit here and watch you keep me out? I can handle it. You think I can't? I handle every other fucking thing you throw my way. It takes time to build this, and you want to butt your way right into the top? That's not how this works. And if you had minded your fucking business instead of sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, this wouldn't be a conversation. So if you're mad, you made yourself mad. They get angrier and angrier, and one of them gets louder, the other trying to quiet him. I know who I'm hearing. Their voice is clear as day. Hicks and Moore. You think I'm going to let you just not cut me in? Knowing what I know? Hicks shouts. I'm telling you that you don't have a fucking choice in the matter. There's a momentary pause, and you can hear some shuffling noises. Oh, you son of a bitch, I fucking dare you. Moore barks. I fucking dare you. Cut me in. I know the promise fund is just your piggy bank, Kenny. All that money from Ennis going right into your pocket. Cut me in. I said no. When the gun goes off, everyone in the Stanley Ennis gymnasium gasps. Wilson Hicks, the dean of students, now interim principal, caught on tape murdering his partner in crime, Principal Moore. My abuela always says I have a skill for picking up on vibes. The email JB, Trey, and me received was the giveaway. Skulking, Hicks said. He had used that word with me before. The tape keeps playing and we hear the body of Principal Kenneth Moore fall to the floor. We hear rustling around the room, scrambling as if trying to wipe fingerprints, set the scene. And then, all we hear is silence.
Kiana Glenn. On stage, Wilson Hicks is scrambling to turn on the mic, to make the presentation stop. He's frantic. Meanwhile, Omar Rosario sits calmly in his chair with his hands folded in his lap. In the audience, people are shouting. Some people are jumping on the phone to call the police, but they don't need to. The cops are already here. I saw them when we snuck in with the other attendees. Big events like these always have cops at them. And today is no different. Nobody knows what to do. And I don't either. I'm just sitting in the chair, wishing I was sitting next to JB, whose face looks like it did in Omar's film. Serious, thoughtful, studious, even while everyone else is bugging out. Everyone stay seated, Hicks shouts. We're going to figure this out. We're going to figure out what happened here. Some kind of sick practical joke. He will be expelled. Everyone seems frozen. Except the Promise Boys. It's JB first. While Hicks is shouting at everyone to stay seated, stay silent, JB slowly stands up from his folding chair. You can't miss him. All 6 feet 3 inches of him. Standing there in my father's suit, doing nothing, arms by his sides. He just stands, staring up at Hicks. Everyone sees him, and the whispers surge. Some of them aren't whispers. He's innocent. That's J.B. Williamson. He's innocent. Then it's Trey. He stands up too, the suit hanging off his shoulders a little. Trey Jackson. He's here too. Trey didn't do it. Then Ramon. He's trembling as he stands. I can see him from here. Ramon Zambrano. He's innocent. They're all innocent. One by one, the Promise Boys stand up. They say nothing. But one after another, row after row, the other students stand, until every single uniform in the gym is standing, straight-backed, in defiance. And finally, Omar Rosario stands too.
Kenneth Moore's homicide case. DCPD official report. Further interrogations and collection of both physical and digital evidence indicates that Kenneth Moore, late principal of Urban Promise Prep, led a years-long fraud and embezzlement scheme involving donor and political funds. Stanley Ennis, Lindsay Ennis, and one other board member were also implicated. Investigations are forthcoming. Detective Ash will be pursuing the Ennis case with a team of 3. Irrefutable evidence points to Wilson Hicks, former dean of the student body at Urban Promise Prep, as being responsible for the death of Moore. Charges include murder, coercion, blackmail, falsification of evidence, misconduct, and evidence tampering. The murder weapon was found in Hicks's home. The gun carried fingerprints belonging to Hicks. When faced with audio of the tape recorded by student Omar Rosario, Hicks admitted to confronting Moore about his embezzlement and to pressuring Moore to share the funds. Hicks seems willing to provide information about others involved in the scheme. We will consult with the Associate District Attorney as matters proceed. Lab reports confirmed J.B. Williamson's claim that the blood on his shirt was his own. In fact, witnesses report Williamson's nose started bleeding in the gymnasium at Promise Prep the day the Rosario video was shown. Trey Jackson's guardian, Terrence Jackson, confirms the gun is his and that he hadn't known it was missing. Records indicate that he has not attended a shooting range in many months, supporting his claim of no knowledge. Hicks admits that he found the gun in the bathroom when doing an inspection in search of contraband. Exactly how the gun got there is unknown, but it is believed the weapon may have been stolen from Mr. Jackson. On the part of Ramon Zambrano, Hicks had initially claimed that his fingerprints were on the young man's hairbrush found at the scene of the murder because he picked it up when he discovered the body. But after further interrogation, Hicks admitted that he stole the brush from the school's office and planted it in Moore's office. This investigation finds all three Promise boys, J.B. Williamson, Trey Jackson, and Ramon Zambrano, innocent. The Promise Prep Paper by Marcus Watts, Editor-in-Chief. 1 year after the murder of Principal Kenneth Moore shook our close-knit community, Promise Preparatory, now newly renamed, is thriving under the leadership of Principal Carla Hall. A visitor to this school might not recognize it from 1 year ago, as the hallways are now filled with noise, as well as posters for events and newly formed organizations, including this newspaper, which has already won an award for its integrity and excellence. The events of last year required a massive reorganization of everything, from values to the handbook to staff. You might only recognize a handful of teachers. Principal Hall was meticulous as she shifted everything about Promise. There is now a student government, as well as 6 mental health advisors, a full ESL staff, and a sensory room that the student body refers to as the Chill Mansion. The Student-Led Research Committee has found that these are the measures a truly successful school environment requires. When their research uncovers a new endeavor that the committee believes might best serve the Promise student body, they propose it to Principal Hall, who then meets with student government. These are just some of the new additions at Promise, but many aspects of Moore's tenure have been removed, including the blue line. On this day, 1 year after proving the innocence of 3 Promise alumni who were accused of murdering former Principal Moore, the Promise Prep paper thought it appropriate to shine a light on the paths of these young men who, though no longer students here, carry on the new legacy of what this school believes in and stands for. Ramon Zambrano, founder of the SCI program here at Promise, which remains one of the most popular and well-regarded programs in the district, received a full ride to the Sullivan School of Culinary Arts, where he is preparing for a career as a chef. Trey Jackson graduated as the top-scoring senior in the district and now plays basketball at the D1 level, majoring in computer science. And J.B. Williamson is on a year-long road trip with his high school sweetheart, Kiana Glenn. They deferred college for a year, she, law, he, musical composition, while they explore the country together. The lives of these 3 young men follow their unique paths. But wherever they go, the student body at Promise Prep applauds them for their courage and for embodying the tenets of the Promise motto, which may be a little different since the last time you heard it. We are the young men of Promise Prep. We are destined for greatness. We deserve joy. We are extraordinary. We ask from the world what we give to the world: respect, wisdom, and grace. We are each other's hope. We are responsible for our futures. We are the future. We promise.